Well, we all know that since the advent of generative search, that people are coming to our websites further in their buyer's journey. They're getting some easy answers off of generative. And then when they come to our sites, they're asking deeper questions. And so our website strategy needs to change as a result. And today's guest is going to come on and tell us how this trend is a good indicator that AI driven chat is an interesting solution for websites. So we'll talk about how chat has evolved and how to make that connection between what the purpose of your website really should be and how you can help take some of that friction out of the buyer's journey through AI driven chat. Let's do this.
Welcome to Content Marketing Engineered, your source for building trust and generating demand with technical content. Here is your host, Wendy Covey.
Hi, and welcome to Content Marketing Engineered. On each episode, I'll break down an industry trend, challenge, or best practice in reaching technical audiences. You'll meet colleagues, friends, and clients of mine who will stop by to share their stories. And I hope that you leave each episode feeling inspired and ready to take action. Before we jump in, I'd like to give a brief shout out to my agency, True Marketing. True is a full-service agency located in beautiful Austin, Texas, serving highly technical companies. For more information, visit truemarketing.com. And now, on with our podcast. Hey, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Content Marketing Engineered. I'm joined today by John Greeley, who's the VP of Marketing for Navu. Welcome to the show, John.
Thank you so much, Wendy. I'm happy to be on.
And I am excited about you coming here in person to Austin in a few weeks for the Industrial Marketing Summit. Navu is one of our top sponsors, and we are so happy to have you at the event and on board and helping us support all these industrial marketers that are coming together to learn from each other. So thank you for that.
I mean, of course, we're extremely excited about it. We would have been excited about it regardless, but the fact that it's back in my old stomping grounds in Austin is just the icing on the cake for me.
I know you're a Longhorn, right?
We don't. Yeah. No. Yes.
Okay. You can be proud. About half of True Marketing, they're Longhorns. I'm the outcast Aggie in the group. So
that's a tough spot to be in.
I guess it's an okay school. Well, that'll be fun to have you back in Austin. Before we start, I'd love to just hear a little bit about your career journey and what led you to your role. Always fun to hear some context, some backgrounder.
Yeah, of course. I sort of have had a non-traditional path. I feel like every path is non-traditional at this point, but I came from sports media as the world that I started in. I got my first job out of college off Craigslist. I was an early employee at a tech startup called Bleacher Report, which was tech and sports media, and it produced really interesting content in the sports space. But I just happened to catch them right around Series B when they were growing pretty rapidly. So I ended up opening their New York office and then their London office. Had a Premier League press pass for a time, which was maybe the pinnacle of my life. Don't tell my wife and 8-month-old daughter. And then from there, I went and I really knew that I liked the data and analytics side of my job, which was a pretty important part of what I was doing in the marketing side there. But I didn't think sports media was my long-term future. I went out to UT for grad school, pivoted into sort of the more traditional tech marketing space, and then have been at what is now Navu for, I guess it's 6 years now, which is pretty crazy. We had a previous company that was in the engagement rate monetization space, engagement rate optimization and monetization space that we sold that a few years back and launched Navu. So it was a bit circuitous to get here, but it's really a lot of the same stuff around understanding user behavior, what makes your visitors tick, and then optimizing your website to drive desirable outcomes. So.
And you didn't find this latest role through Craigslist, right? Only the
No. I only got the one job off Craigslist. I love Craigslist. The majority of my furniture and roommates in my adult life have been Craigslist, but at this stage of my life, it's mostly behind me.
Yes, I could see that. Well, hey, my first tech job came from the newspaper. So there you go. That was even pre-Craigslist, believe it or not, or if it was a thing, no one was using it yet. So
Yeah.
I don't think it was a thing. Okay, well, what Navu?
Navu.
Navu.
It's not we're not too prescriptive about it. We picked the word, or the not really a word, when we launched the company 3 years ago. So with time, maybe there'll be some brand recognition. We call it Navu.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll say this right. And what the heck does Navu do?
Yeah. So we're essentially just a fully turnkey, easy to use AI chat built for business websites, B2B websites in particular. And it's really the easiest way to leverage the powerful LLMs of today, based only on your site content. So when we tell people about it, it's not trained on the broader internet. It's not going to answer questions about doing your math homework or about Taylor and Travis. It's not going to tell you about your competitors with pulling from their content. It's an AI chat that's built on the really powerful LLMs, but is trained only on content that you control. So marketers, as I think we all know, can sometimes be a little bit control freaks. A little bit. We like to
Smidge.
we like to know what we're telling people,
Mhm.
and AI is a bit of a black box. And so we're trying to make it very easy to leverage these powerful AI tools for your customer communication in such a way that doesn't jeopardize the message itself.
Okay.
And so that's what we do, sort of in a nutshell.
Now, before we hit record, we were talking a little bit about just how different the purpose of a website is today versus, what it used to be. So let's unpack that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, this is something we talk about a lot. For full transparency, we work with a ton of marketing agencies. That's one of the core areas that we like to work with, because marketing agencies are often the most trusted third-party advisor on websites. They're the way that a lot of end users, particularly in the industrial and manufacturing space, are understanding what the purpose of their website and what the tools are to get them there. And I think there's been a pretty big shift. We hear it from the agencies themselves. We hear it from the end customers. And, well, what's my website for now anyway? Because it used to be that it was the source of truth on your product. It used to be that if somebody wanted to learn about your product or service, they went to your website, they found it, you did all the work on the SEO side, on the marketing side, emails, newsletters, anything else to get people to your website where they could then learn about your content. But now people aren't really going to websites as much. I think it's about 15% less traffic for the top 1,000 websites over the last 4 years are diminishing. And a big part of that is that people are getting their answers from LLMs. So they're asking ChatGPT, or they're Googling it, finding the answer on Google, and then not clicking through. And so the question is now, if your website is not the only place that people are getting information about your company, what is it trying to achieve? Are you just trying to drive conversions and then get them to talk to sales? Are you trying to educate that user as much as possible with the time that they're on the website? Are you exposing all the content that used to be gated? Because now you're just trying to maximize that limited window. If you have fewer clicks, you're trying to maximize the amount that you get. And I think one thing that's pretty universal across the B2B space is large, complex, a large user education burden before conversion. People aren't going to be buying tractor fleets or bridges, and these are real companies that work with us, on a whim. They're not going to be coming in and saying, sure, I'll buy a bridge. It's it's many, many journeys with many, many user education touch points, white papers, PDFs, case studies. And then they're going to be talking to specific regional salespeople and things. And so they have all this content. And the question for them is, do they want to leverage that content so that it provides answers outside of the website or on the website or through a salesperson? And it's a very different flow than it was just several years ago, where click comes in, you have a prescribed conversion flow, and you try to get the email address, at which point you can give them all the information they want. And that was the standard for a long time.
Yeah, it was like clockwork. It was great. Nice little inbound formula. That's
right.
That's now very broken.
What's the formula now? And I think we haven't coalesced around what the formula is now. And for the first time in many years, marketers are beginning to rethink what the purpose of their website is.
Yeah.
And I think for us, that represents an opportunity where we are making it and we're attempting to make it much easier to provide information, to just say, here's everything that we know about our product that's relevant to you. And by making it conversational rather than navigable, so instead of having to navigate and find for yourself what you're looking for, to be able to go to one page, have a conversation, and discover the content that you're looking for, that's the bet that we're making, is that those are the fundamentals that lead to conversions rather than optimizing a flow around an artificial conversion and hoping to educate them from there.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Um, so I think about too, I liken this to different user behavior than in the past. For example, because we've discussed, I'm a Gen Xer, right? And I still love folders. I like the foldering system. Like when I go into Google Docs, it kind of freaks me out a little bit still, even after all these years, because you're just relying on the search functionality rather than my nice control freak little foldering system. And I think of chat in a similar way, right? As it used to be, I need this global navigation to take me down this path, and I'm relying on these sub navigation links and all of this. And then we went to search on people's websites, but it never did seem to work well for some reason. That's certainly not my go-to. So is that one of the UX considerations as someone considers chat on their website?
I mean, absolutely. And I think we've all, if if you've been in marketing for any amount of time, you've interacted with chatbots and thought, boy, this is bad. Like this is not the experience that I want. And search as well. And I think this is something that we're trying to overcome as well as anybody else in this space, is the legacy resistance to to chat and search, because of the products that have been delivered in the past based on the technologies that were available then. But what we tell people all the time, and what becomes very clear when you interact with it, is if you haven't evaluated sort of modern AI navigation solutions on your website, chat, search, etc., in the last 2 years, your information is really out of date. The technology has been coming along at such a rapid clip that it really doesn't resemble what it used to even 2 or 3 years ago. And so, as an example, one of those companies that I was mentioning there, we like to talk about them a lot. Contech Engineered Solutions, based out of Ohio. They sell bridges, pipes, tunnels, stormwater filtrations, just massive engineered solutions products. And to my point earlier, those are complicated. They require a lot of user education. They have a super menu, which you can click through. And so, if you're a folder person and you want to find, okay, I'm going to go to stormwater filtration solutions, and I'm going to go to here, and then I'm going to go to here. You can find the information that you're looking for. They have it, but there's a lot, and it's hard to find necessarily the specific information that you're looking for, even when you're doing the navigation process on your own. And I think we've all seen, when we look at user journeys, people come in, try 1 or 2 clicks, not find what they're looking for, and then bounce, which is just immensely frustrating. And so an example that I like to talk about is they have, and there's a case study, so I have this all kind of memorized, but they had a visitor come in on a CPC campaign. It was an expensive campaign. These are obviously high value clicks because they are high deal sizes. And the campaign was for stormwater filtration. And the visitor came to the landing page and they just asked a question: what stormwater filtration solutions do you offer? And then it answered with the main options available. And then it said, okay, well, I'm a farmer. Which one is most realistically best for me? And then it answered based on that information and provided a good answer. And then they kept getting more detailed with the questions that they were answering, or questions that they were asking. And that user ended up asking, I believe, 9 or 10 questions.
Wow.
To the AI, getting progressively more detailed until the last one, which this is the one that I have memorized at this point, but was, how many cubic feet of water per second can the jellyfish stormwater filtration system process? Right? And obviously, they have the documentation to answer that question, but that user is going to struggle to find it in a 200-page PDF of tech specs somewhere. But of course, the AI doesn't struggle to find that information at all. It knows what PDF it's referencing. It knows what it's looking for, and it finds and delivers the exact answer at that point. So then the next question that the user asked was, how do I talk to a salesperson?
Fantastic example. Yeah.
But that's it, though, is if you're a navigation person, you might get to that PDF, but then you're still going to have to search manually for the information that you're looking for. And if you have a separate question, well, you're going to have to find the separate source of information for it. And it just relieves that burden entirely. So that visitor, before they asked to talk to sales, they spent a lot of time actively on site learning, but they didn't navigate outside of that page.
Yeah. And by the way, that PDF's probably in front of a form on top of it. Yes. So lots of friction being removed. Wow. What a cool example.
Well, I mean, that's it, right? There's so much friction to find the content on your site, and marketers are great at creating content, but the big black hole is, how do I get it in front of the person that I created it for?
Yeah, and that's the thing, is anticipating the questions That's tough, right? And of course there are tools out there where we can do some research, but at the end of the day, the more specific we can be, the more custom we can be to that particular person's application, right? Within their industry and their application, all the data shows that they're going to find you more credible and they'll shortlist you if you can serve it up specific to them. And it's a tough job for a marketer, right? To manually figure out how to do. So
And
what
have you used any older school chatbots in the past?
I have,
And
and it was tough, right? Because you had to anticipate what should be the starting questions, what should be the second questions, and you had to build this manual workflow that would then be automated on the site. And it never really worked. We didn't get any momentum with it.
the thing for me is you're doing all these if thens and trying to
Yes.
create these prescribed flows. But what shocks me, and this is true. So I run our marketing at Navu, and I'm a marketer. And in my career today, I've been basically desperately trying to get in the heads of the people on the site and say, why are my prescribed flows working or not working? Why are people, deviating? What are they thinking as they browse the site? And so for me, I run our Navu instance on the Navu website. And my favorite thing is seeing the questions that people ask. And it's astonishing the questions that they come up with, because some of them are really good, but I would never have thought of it. And it's a limitation of trying to, in the old paradigm of chatbots, trying to figure out what questions your visitor is going to ask. Yeah. They're going to surprise you. It's going to shock you, the questions that they come up with, and they're not ones that you would necessarily have devised flows around. And so that's been, honestly, it's been a real high point of my marketing career. Is it's just like this big question mark of what are people doing and what are they thinking. I now have so much more insight than I used to.
Yeah, like this curtain has been pulled back on it.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Well, about a month ago, we installed your product on our True Marketing website, and we had a demo, a trial or whatever. And I remember, okay, here are all these things that I think people ask or want to know, but they're hard to answer on the website, right? Because they're so specific. So I'll give you an example, does True Marketing work with semiconductor companies? And yes, we have an industry page, but you kind of want to group industries and applications or whatever. And not only did it answer correctly, but it gave case studies and examples from several disparate parts of the website. And that was so impressive. And so I kept trying to stump it and I couldn't. So yeah, I can back up what you're saying, that, wow.
That is nice. That is nice to hear. And it is always interesting to see. The questions that visitors ask are obviously really interesting. The questions that the business owners, the users, that they're thinking, what can we do to stump it? Those are always some of the most interesting ones to see, because they show a lot about how they conceptualize the purpose of their own website, right?
Yeah.
So you're thinking about industries and everything else, but to your point, what are you going to create a separate page for every potential, niche industry that you're working with? You could theoretically create a semiconductor landing page, but then you're maintaining that in perpetuity.
Exactly.
I do want to just to back up a second though and say, look, it's great to toot our own horn and everything, but we're not doing anything that, we're not unique in our product offering right now. This is the technology that underlies us. So we're built on both OpenAI and Google Gemini for redundancy purposes, but this is sort of a revolution in the capabilities around AI chat. And it's the same revolution that you're seeing with LLMs. But so there's a lot of solutions out there that are kind of taking it from different perspectives. So something like, you mentioned Drift earlier, they were sort of a legacy player, but we've got something like Qualified. They're basically taking the same problem and saying, we're going to create AI SDRs. So that's Piper Qualified's AI SDR. Yeah. And they're trying to say, this is going to answer all the questions on your site, but it's also going to follow up with emails and be very agentic and into your workflow. And it's an SDR that's just sitting on your website, trying to act in that capacity.
So an SDR AI agent is Correct. How I almost think of that. Yeah.
And that's what Qualified is framing this as. And that's a really, really good solution for the enterprise companies that have the ability to execute on something like that. Mm-hmm. For more support-oriented websites, something like Intercom is obviously a really, really valuable top tier solution, but they're obviously more focused on ticket resolution and sort of what is the documentation, the help library, that kind of area. And I think, there's tons and tons of startups in the space. There's lots of legacy players that I'm not going to be able to mention everybody. There's a HubSpot has their Breeze AI chat agent, which if you're into the HubSpot ecosystem, might be an intuitive one to try to get working for your use case. But what we talk about a lot is you got to just pick the one that's right for your application, because the capability to answer all these questions exists. You can even build your own GPT, but the applications, the specific guardrails they put in place, the specific integrations that they put, how it's designed, making sure that's a fit for your business is really, really important. Because if you get, the Cadillac, the Rolls Royce of AI chat, and then you don't have the ability to execute on it internally because you have a smaller team that's bandwidth constrained, you're going to end up not using it, and then it's going to frustrate you, and it might perform worse.
Or you're paying for features that you're not using, so might as well right size to something that fits your needs, right? Your use cases.
I mean, as with anything, the best solution, the best AI chat solution, but the best just about anything is the one that you actually use.
Yeah, right. So then as a follow-up, then how does Navu, how do you differentiate if you're saying there's a lot of similarities on some level between these technologies? What are you guys focused on?
Yeah, ease of use. For us, we're just trying to be the easy one. It's, I think, the first word easy on our website. I should know this as the marketing person on our website, but ease of use is what we're going for. And one of the reasons that we were so excited about the Industrial Marketing Summit and working with you guys on that is because that's a niche that really works well for us. It's complex user journeys that require heavy education burdens, that have lots and lots of technical marketing material and information to pull from. So more information means better trained answers, means better AI chat results, but often under-resourced marketing departments. There's a lot of the times where we're working with companies that have one or two marketers that are wearing just a ton of hats, and they don't have the ability to do a custom, they're not going to build their own. They're not going to try to make a really complex solution. They're not going to be able to give the time required to get the most out of a solution like that. So what we're trying to provide is just the turnkey version. And for you guys, I think it was maybe 3 or 4 days from when you first saw the demo to when we were live on your site.
Yes.
And that's a pretty standard turnaround for us. It's actually maybe a little on the longer side. And I think that's cool. It's cool, just from a marketing standpoint, when I'm talking to these companies or to our customers, our partners, to just be able to say, look, if you are interested in trying this out, it's just going to work. And there's all these customizations you can do to make it more yours and trained on specific things and everything else. But right out of the box, it's just going to read your sitemaps, pull all the content from your site, and then just spit out answers that are only based on the site content.
Regardless if you have 10,000 SKUs or 15.
Yeah. And that is one of the areas that we find is very specific to the industrial manufacturing engineering, that sort of space, is large product catalogs. We work with companies, as an example, that might have 6,000 types of syringes, right? Mm-hmm. And they have a product catalog on the website. And that's a really specific challenge to solve that a lot of AI chat won't be able to solve out of the box. Because you can imagine you ask about a syringe and then it pulls these tranches of information using RAG search to say, here's all the results for syringes, and it's going to pick the ones that it thinks are most relevant. And it's going to only answer based on that content. Mm-hmm. But what ends up frequently happening is it'll be undifferentiated content, and it'll pull from the wrong bits of information, and then it'll answer questions with information that you wouldn't necessarily want to be pulling from. Maybe specific product catalogs from 10 years ago, maybe a blog post about syringes that's really relevant to the search result, but not relevant to the query. But if they asked a products marketing expert or a subject matter expert within your company, they would be able to provide a pretty straightforward and easy answer. So one thing that we do for that specific use case is allow weighting of content in advance. So during the setup process, you can weight content that's particularly valuable or relevant. Imagine that you have specific comparison documentation or product catalog information. There's a lot of different ways that you can handle it, but we are intentionally tailoring ourselves to that use case where you have thousands of SKUs, right? And that's, I think, a really tricky area. We do integrate with a lot of product inventory management catalog, PIM solutions. But that's, I think, one of the hardest ones to get right. And you can imagine, so you sell, compressors, right? But you also have accessories for those compressors that are not massive tens of $1,000 deals. There are $80 items on the site that are designed for one specific product.
Yeah.
You don't really want all of those journeys to be filtered into the same sales funnel.
No.
As your big ticket items, right? You kind of have a bifurcated website where there's the big sales, this is the stuff that we're designing around. And then there's we also sell these things.
The French fries. Yeah.
We don't want to be focusing on the French fries.
Yeah.
And so it's really important that when somebody asks about a compressor, that you're not routing that into the traditional sales funnel, but using a smart enough AI that understands your website to say, this is the one for the product that you're looking for, or for the French fries on the side of it.
Got it.
And really understanding the product catalog and making sure that the recommendations are appropriate to the queries.
Okay. Yeah. Good. That's a good example to easily wrap up my head around. Although I've been obsessing lately with King of the Hill. I'm rewatching it, so it made me think of propane and propane accessories.
Well, I did that recently. Oh my God, it holds up so well.
It really has. It really has. As a side. And, how does a marketer, so say I've installed it, one of the thing is, right, is it easy to install? Is it working? Is it giving good answers? How do I measure effectiveness? How do I either in advance, how do I justify to executive leadership to invest in this? And then how on the back end do I validate that this was the right thing to do?
Yeah. I mean, I think that goes back to a degree to the question of what is my website trying to do? Mm-hmm. Right? Is it trying to drive a top line conversion metric? Or in which case, maybe you just want a really aggressive, traditional chatbot of give me your email address. And you're going to turn off a bunch of people in the process, but you're going to get more email addresses. Or are you trying to educate more users that are prospective buyers with the understanding that if you do the fundamentals, you'll eventually reap the rewards. And I think there is room for different interpretations for intellectually curious marketers, but often they're reporting to a very black and white, C-suite of, well, what are the numbers though? Yeah. So you do with every marketing tech solution, you do obviously have to be thinking, what are the immediate value adds that you're getting? And I think what we will often hear from our customers about the way that they're positioning it internally and deriving value from a top level is the qualifying users before they get to sales. Okay. So there are the two components of that. There's the, propane accessories. Let's use propane. I like that one. So there's the propane side of the business and the propane accessories. And if everybody's coming in and asking about the accessories, that's wasting a lot of time from the sales and support team that are having to answer those questions repeatedly that could be answered with a simple query on the website. So we get a lot of people just talking about the time and effort savings on just not having to deal with manually questions that can be pre-screened out. And they're getting pre-screened out at just an enormous clip. Most of the questions that you're going to be getting are going to be about propane accessories rather than propane, because the people coming into your site, they already have, you're going to get more buyers for that than the former. And so taking that labor away from the plate of your sales and support staff is a pretty big one. But then on the other side of it is, okay, so you get somebody coming in who's potentially a big purchase. They pre-qualify themselves. They ask questions before they talk to sales. And then as soon as they convert on your website, every question they ask and every page they went gets immediately pushed into your CRM and into your sales team. So before that first meeting, they know every question that this user has been asking about, what specifically they're interested in, what they're looking for. And it makes those meetings a lot easier for the sales team with some pre-information to prepare accordingly. So that's a conversion play, right? That's for the deals that are the high value potential deals. They're going to be better qualified and your sales team is going to be better prepared for those meetings. But you're also going to be saving for the lower qualified, the lower value visitors that are coming through. That's more of a labor savings.
Yeah, self-serve, kind of pushing people that way. Okay. Yeah. And then you mentioned earlier just the fascination you had with what questions are coming through. So it sounds like there's some anecdotal data that marketers can get to better flesh out personas and think about new content to publish. How is that presented to the marketer? How do you get your hands on that data?
What's funny is you ask about how do you justify this marketing tool's existence, and I immediately talked about sales and support, and that I think is pretty indicative of sometimes the internal structures of these companies.
Absolutely,
marketing tools for marketing's sake are often not given a ton of value internally, and obviously there's reason around it. You got to be generating the revenue that sales generates, and keeping support costs down, whereas marketing is sort of a nebulous expense that makes everything better, but it's hard to really quantify in a lot of ways internally. But from a purely subjective standpoint, it's awesome as a marketer to see all those. It's the first thing I do every morning in my job is I check all the questions that have been asked on our site. We have a Slack channel that's just whenever a new question gets asked on site, we ping the Slack channel with that question and the answer that was given, see where that visitor was coming from, and then we'll often follow that journey from first question through conversion and see the process. And so it's really cool to be able to say, hey, somebody converted. What were they doing on site beforehand? And say, well, they came in via referral here. And so we have something called the Journey Explorer where you see every individual user journey. It's tied into your consent management platform. So if you're GDPR, CCPA, worried about those compliance issues, our permissions are the same level as Google Analytics generally. So you can have it set to opt-in based on that. But anybody who we have the right to track, whether we do it at an anonymous level, you can see, so anonymous visitor from Chicago came in February, browsed these 3 pages, asked, what do you do? And then left. Then they came back in March, went to these pages, were referred from, let's say, from IMS, from the conference itself. They came back to the site, asked 4 questions. I look at each of the individual questions and then see the conversion form that they submitted along the way, which again is valuable from us from a sales perspective. But for me, the marketing person, it's just valuable from a understanding what my website is and isn't answering correctly.
Yes,
from a purely tactical
absolutely.
standpoint, one thing that especially the agency partners that we work with really find interesting is content gaps.
That's immediately where my head went, is navigation gaps and content gaps, but mainly content gaps. Yeah.
Well, because frequently, like we were talking, you can't always think about what are the questions that my visitors are realistically going to ask. And I'm embarrassed to admit, sometimes people ask questions on our site that I'm like, oh, that's a good question. Why? And it says the AI couldn't answer that. And so when the AI can't answer it, it says something. It says, I can't find the information on the Navu site to answer this question. You can find relevant information here. It'll provide a good answer to the question, but we then flag that as an unanswered question. So within the analytics in the questions tab, where you can see every individual question that's been asked on the site, you can filter by unanswered questions and see only ones for which answers weren't provided. And then say, okay, well, I don't care if they were asking, about the Super Bowl, but I do care if they were asking about, is Navu right for e-commerce? And that's a real example. Somebody was asking about e-commerce, and I realized we actually don't have a lot of information on the site about it. It wasn't able to provide an answer to that specific question. This was several months ago. And so I had to create some content on the site to address that gap, because it was a valid question, and it was one that I wanted to make sure that I had the appropriate answer to, that I didn't feel like was being resolved at the time.
Great example. And I keep thinking of, for innovative companies who have products that can be used in all sorts of different ways, they may not anticipate all of the examples, all the applications that product may go into, or the in system that will be created from this product. And so it's even learning that, through, it'll help inform R&D. So, yeah.
I think what's surprised me a lot is innovative companies. Sure, it makes total sense. Obviously, it feels like the obvious fit. But what the best fit in our experience has been is mundane companies, traditional companies that sell something. They have the information for it. They have the processes and things. And then it's just plug and play. There is no, because I think when you have the dual burden on your site of industry education and product education. So it's not just, why do I need your product? It's, why do I need this category?
Oh, absolutely. How do I solve X problem?
Right.
And then how do I solve it with your solution?
Right.
Yep.
And I think that's just a double problem for the site. Yeah. When you have a very specific one problem site, I have this thing, I know that I want it. Why should I buy you? It's really straightforward to just plug in a modern chat solution and say, here's all the stuff about it. They're going to find it. And I don't need to add custom instructions to handle all of these, more general education type questions.
Okay. Yeah. Hank Hill would be very pleased with this product, is what I'm hearing.
Propane and propane accessories.
Propane accessories.
I try not to, my mom is from Texas, and anytime I attempt a Texas accent, I can feel her cringing just in the background.
Well, I'm a native Texan, so I feel like I have permission, but
Yes, of course. Yeah.
but my mom's from East Texas, and that's a whole different accent than here in
It
Austin.
is.
So
I am well and truly familiar. Yeah.
you won't hear that accent unless I have a few drinks in me. So
Ooh, yeah.
that's for our time in Austin. Well, as we wrap up here, just what parting advice do you have for marketers, whether or not, I don't know, whether or not you think they should use your product or just in general in this new environment that we find ourselves in?
This has been a bit of a promotional, like I've been very much talking about our own product and things. And I do believe in all that stuff, but I also think everybody knows that AI has changed just a ton of stuff. And there are the early adopters out there, but for the people that aren't the early adopters, it's not that they're scared necessarily. It's not that they aren't comfortable with the notion that this is going to be valuable. It's just that they don't necessarily think it's ready for them yet, that they're ready, that it's a fit in the space yet. And I think it's very understandable, but you would be shocked at how plug and play a lot of these AI solutions are, not just on your website, not just, the LLMs themselves, but there's a lot of value that can be gained with minimal effort. And so, like I said, the best one is the one that you're going to use. Mm-hmm. But you'd be surprised at how easy it is to use a lot of these solutions. And for us, we're based in San Francisco. Every billboard, every car advertisement, everything is AI all the time here. But we get to our customers out in non-San Francisco parts of the country, and they're not as fully steeped in everything AI all the time.
Yeah.
And so for me, my advice is get your hands dirty just a little bit, because the opportunity is there, and it's early enough that you might be able to do something that your competitors aren't yet doing that's going to derive value for your customers, because you've probably used ChatGPT. You've probably used, these LLMs in your marketing role. Your customers are using it too. They're Googling things and not clicking because they're getting the LLM results. And so that, I think, is an important one to remember, is your customers are becoming acquainted with this new mannerism. Are you, in your marketing strategy, moving forward with meeting your customers where they are?
Yeah. And for the marketer that's not seeped in it, I thought that it's a good example. When we do go out there to educate ourselves, often it seems either too basic or, hey, you need to program all these custom gems and GPTs. And then a lot of overworked marketers just turn off, right?
Yes.
It might be that easy, but is it really? And what do I need to keep up with? So the idea of something that is a point solution that takes advantage of all of the power of these tools, but isn't something where I need to go troubleshoot is very nice, regardless if it's to do with chat or other functions within marketing. I think this is the way of the world going forward as we see it. So,
and if I may, it may strain a little bit of credulity, but I was not an AI early adopter. I do not consider myself an AI early adopter. For me, I was very skeptical of chatbots in general. And when we launched, we'd been at a website personalization solution, sort of trying to be an easy website personalization to tell multiple stories to different audiences accordingly. And when our CEO approached and said, hey, I have an idea, and the tech team's been working on it to take that underlying indexing technology and apply it to be AI chat, I was the one who was most reticent about the idea. I was the one who was most skeptical. And is this really what people want? Like, we're selling to marketers. Marketers hate chatbots. Yeah. And then as soon as they showed me the demo, I think it was about 30 seconds into the demo, I was like, oh, no, this is better. This is
something different.
This is incredible.
Yeah.
And it just won me over instantly because of all the reasons that we're talking about now I can access literally all of that content that I've written is just available without me doing a bunch of if-then statements and planning. Like all of that maintenance and infrastructure work around it was just gone. And I was like, this is now an easier solution than what we had before that has better results on the website. Like, sign me up. So I was a skeptic.
Yeah.
It converted me relatively quickly. And I think that's my message to marketers who may feel like, I'm not sure about whether or not I can integrate AI into my org, into my workflow, into my own personal, day. So that would be just my message for you, is it is actually easier than you think.
All right. Very good. Well, where can people connect with you and learn more about Navu?
So navu.co, navu.co is our website. It has the sidebar on it, so you can ask questions. But also, you can just go to truemarketing.com because we're live on that website as well. And if you want to reach out to contact@navu.co, and we'd be happy to answer any questions that the sidebar can't handle, although you'd be surprised at what it can handle.
Yeah, give it a whirl. See what you think.
Yeah. And I should mention as well, I've talked a little about it being easy. We have a demo and a trial program. So if you just enter your domain on our website, you can be talking to you can be answering questions from your own website within a minute. It's literally about 1 minute from when you enter your domain to when we can start to answer questions based on your site content. So it is pretty cool to try, and I would encourage you to do it.
Yeah. Great. Well, thank you for coming on, and I will see you in a few short weeks in Austin.
I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you so much, Wendy.
Thanks for joining me today on Content Marketing Engineered. For show notes, including links to resources, visit truemarketing.com/podcast. While there, you can subscribe to our blog and our newsletter and order a copy of my book, Content Marketing Engineered. Also, I would love your reviews on this podcast. So please, when you get a chance, subscribe and leave me your review on your favorite podcast subscription platform. Thanks and have a great day.